is just headed your way. If I could just request the questions to be kept very brief and the responses also, so we can cover a lot more ground.
My question is to Mr. Junaid. This kind of quality assurance program that you talked about, this is something that the professional firms also have internally within their organizations, where the chartered accountant firms I'm talking about, where they have quality assurance programs for various functions like audit, tax, and advisory, including internal audit, right? So those are internal programs. So you have this internal program, right? Then we have regulatory regimes also, external reviews as well. For example, we have a quality assurance board in Pakistan. You used to be the chairman of that quality assurance board, and which is actually now, there is now an audit oversight board as well. So there is an external review as well, which is actually taking place. And as you are aware about IFIR, that there are international forum of audit regulators, which includes PCOAB, European Audit Inspection Group, and as well as FRC and others, right, who are carrying out reviews, external reviews. So you talked about the appetite for having these quality assurance programs within the organizations, right? So one apprehension I have is that there might be some independence issues, or there might be some influence of the management over this program, or even within the internal audit, for example, because this is something I think we need to debate today also, about the independence of the internal audit within an organization. How independent is it? Is it really independent, where it is administratively reporting to the management and reporting in a way to the audit committee? So we need, I'm sorry, I'm just completing my question. So what, is there any external regulator regime within internal audit also? Like you have your own quality assurance internally in Etisalat, but internationally do you have it, or is there any plan for it? How is it going to work out? Is there anything there?
I mean, we have the Global Institute of Internal Auditors that defines standards and frameworks. Global Institute of Internal Auditors, IAA, that defines their framework and standards that a lot of departments aspire towards. But you're right, I mean, there is no like a mandated regulatory regime to ensure independence of internal audit. It's down to the individual function itself. The way that we manage it, we have a quality assurance program that runs throughout the year, and we try to complement it by the external review once every 3 years or once every 5 years. But you're right, I mean, the line between audit independence, reporting to the CEO, administratively and functionally to the audit committee, that blurs independence. I completely agree with you. And there is no one regime that you can refer to that would address that kind of issue.
There's a question somewhere in the back. Okay.
My name is Amir Salim from UFON. My question is to Mr. Junaid. As you have mentioned in the first session, that audit committee and board have the concern that internal audit is not providing the value to the business that is required. How this quality framework can bridge this gap? My first question is this. And secondly, in the first session, Mr. Imran mentioned that he had a discussion with Apple CIA, and he mentioned that we do not maintain the working papers. If as per the CIA standards, we have to maintain a very detailed documentation. How you relate these two things actually?
I think the two things, the first that you mentioned about aligning to the stakeholder, right, and how the quality program forces you to do that. Now, one of the areas within the quality program is looking at your audit planning, how you go about planning your resources, the work that you are going to do, and how you're going to utilize the tools and to actually deliver it. The audit planning part itself talks about how closely is your audit plan aligned to organization strategy. So that links directly what Mr. Imran said earlier this morning about making sure that you are auditing the value add, or you're adding value to the organization. And that is looking at the, for example, transformation projects or strategic projects, or even culture of the organization, right? So that's where we start with. So that's the answer to the first question. Sorry, what was the second question?
Second one is
working papers, right?
Yes, working papers and different stuff that we have to maintain for the audit.
I'm not aware of what Apple do, but what I do know is that your opinion, or your conclusion that you come up with in an audit should be supported by evidence. How you capture that evidence is not mandated, whether it needs to be like a thick file or it just needs to be in a certain way. I mean, that structure is down to the internal audit function itself, how they go about demonstrating that they've done the right coverage and the conclusion that I've reached to is supportable. I mean, the standard is it should be reformable, right, by an independent person who should be able to reach to the same conclusion. How you do that, the standard does not clearly mandate how you do that. As long as you're able to demonstrate, you're able that is something that you thought about and it can be achieved, then that suffices the standard.
It means that by implementing standard, it is not ensured that stakeholder needs and expectations have been met.
No, sorry, say again.
If we implement the standard, it doesn't mean that the stakeholders and audit committee expectations have been met.
Why do you say that?
Because if business is going in a different way and a CIA from a leading company is saying that we don't need to mention all these stuff and standard is requiring to maintain all these things, then there is a gap that business is requiring something different and standard is requiring something different.
If I could just interject, I'm really sorry. I know this is sparking up a debate because Imran is also standing up and saying, I want to say something also. Lekin, the three of you, I think, need to have a corner meeting just after this session. I'm really sorry to take the mic away from you. Yes, of course, but that's requiring some debate and we really have to move on. So if there's one question here and one question here, and I think that's all we have time for. Just let's keep things moving.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Irfan Sheikh, and my question is to Mr. Talha, use of forensic technology. Mr. Talha, you have mentioned that the area you mentioned that the use of forensic technology is limited to the crimes where we find a digital or documentary evidence. But you know, the fraud is a very well organized and they don't leave, the smart criminal don't leave any digital or documentary evidence. So what other creative steps do you take for identifying the fraud where you don't find any digital or documentary evidence?
All right. In terms of, I've mentioned about there are several types of searches, means of gathering evidences. One of the means of evidences gathering is either the physical visits to the, let's take an example, the vendor, there is no documentation, nothing on that. We have certain tools which we use in terms of the corporate intelligence. There are a lot of databases which we carry as far as our capabilities concerned, where you can actually do on DAC views of the information which is available on the websites. Sometimes, if the things are not available in the digital media or the things are not available in the documentary evidence. The second steps which we normally follow in terms of having either the discrete site visits of certain locations which are suspected in the investigations. And the most important element, obviously, in any investigation, irrespective you have a digital media evidence available or not, is the interviews. The interviews actually brings in either you interview a suspect or a witness. Most of the cases, if you interview a suspect, you require witnesses to corroborate what exactly is the issue. And I would certainly say that some of the times the circumstantial evidence obviously weigh more than the direct evidence. If three people are saying that a watch was in the bathroom when the individual was there and when he left it wasn't there, it will overweigh whether the watch was there or not. So end of the day, it's a combined effort. I will only touch base on one of the elements of investigations, but the entire puzzle gets solved with when you actually gather every bit of evidence which actually completes an investigation. I hope I've answered your question. Yeah.
One last question from the gentleman there. Oh.
My name is Syed Haidar and I'm from 21st Century Business Economics Club. My question is to Talha. Talha, you mentioned about the fraud investigation. It's a very practical question what I'm asking you. You do it like a Sherlock Holmes or like a 007 agent? Have you ever been a thief? Have you ever been a thief? If you were a thief, you would be a better investigator. If you never done it, you are a failure.
So, all right, so, I think a very pertinent question. Most of the time when I I asked some of my clients and some of my colleagues to deliver a fraud awareness workshops, I get a response that, oh, you want to come and teach our people how to commit fraud. And that's what exactly it's all about. As a fraud investigator, actually, I'm being trained as a thief. If you're not being trained as a thief, and you don't know what are the scenarios being applied. And whenever I'm being trained, as far as I'll take my organization, SKPMG, and when I was being trained as an accredited forensic professional, whatever training I used to attend, I used to give an undertaking in the same way you see WWE, don't try this at home, and we sign an undertaking that whatever we are doing as an investigator will not apply to our organizations. So I've been trained as a thief, you're right. Whether I should say I'm proud of it or not, but it's kind of a dilemma which I'm facing. But unfortunately today I can't be a Sherlock Holmes because you can all see my face, and I can't do things discreetly because I'm in front of you.
No,
and my picture is on all the brochures, so I don't know how I'll give my card as an advisor or an internal auditor to most of my clients. Thank you very much.
But Talha, you are an ethical thief, so we should applaud for you, most definitely. One last question from the gentleman there, and that's wrapped
Mr.
up.
Arshad from GeoTV, and my question is to Mr. Talha. I have observed that there are many, in many firms, Gmail accounts and Hotmail accounts are still in use. How do you investigate those accounts if we have the responsibility to, authority to investigate those accounts?
A very, very pertinent question, I think. This is some kind of a current debate and a current issue. In terms of the use of the personal emails. The problem with the personal emails, only we can investigate from the IT server how many email IDs have been, from where the email is being sent to the email IDs of the, you may say, the recipient organization, or from the IP addresses of the organization, how many email IDs being sent from our IT server. You're getting my point. But the problem, even if you are using only Hotmail and Gmails for your communication, that is one of the suspicious indicators, activities for a fraud investigator. For example, I've recently done an investigation where I've just managed to find maybe hardly a 80 MB kind of a data for an employee who worked for an organization for a longer period of time. So it actually generated a lot of eyebrows than how he was communicating. You're getting my point. So most of the time when we interview individuals, they actually inform us, but rightly pointed out in terms of accessing the servers or for Gmail accounts and Hotmails. It's something which still is under process, and there's still no technology for the time being available which authorizes an individual to log into Gmails and Hotmails. But recently for an organization itself, from a legal perspective, if you want to take that privilege out, you can use your lawyers for that, and you can write from a legal counsel perspective a legal case or legal submission directly to Hotmail, Facebook, and all these guys to retrieve the information. In that aspect, the external expert will not help you more than your internal organization's legal counsel and external lawyers to gather that information.
Great, excellent
Yeah.
questions,
Thank you.
excellent interaction. I'm sorry, I won't be able to accommodate you. We'll have to take it offline. Acha, can I just have the mic here very quickly for a quick comment?
Yeah, Amir sir, on the independence side, I mean, this is the pillar and the core of audit.
Of course.
If we are not clear on this, we actually cannot proceed. The response that we got from our honorable speaker was that there is a question mark and it's up in the air. It's actually not clear. Now, you see, internal audit's independence, there are many factors that basically come into play.
Could you hold the mic a little bit closer?
Yeah, and independence and objectivity is the base for any audit function to operate. So if that is not clear, these all quality assurance and stuff like this does not come into foray. So it's the first and foremost job of the audit team itself to earn that place, earn that credibility, and then independence and associated objectivity also comes into play. Governance, support from board, and the industry you basically work in is the key. I can speak for banks. Our regulator, State Bank, do ensure on an ongoing basis that our audit is independent and is functioning as per the laid down standards and procedures. For other industries, it's also imperative that their regulator and board also do ensure that their audits are independent and they can function without any influence.
Absolutely.
That is a clear message.
Thank you for sharing that, sir. Talha and Junaid, thank you so much for your insights. Can we please give them a big round of applause? May I request Mr. Sajid Hussain, who's the Group Head of Audit and Risk Review at UBL, to join me on stage with Mr. Hamza Hashmi. You know, that's so wonderful. That's the wonderful thing about a conference like this, where you cannot resist sharing your insights and moving on from a Q&A to a debate and then saying, okay, I just need to have more of an in-depth, deep dive into this, which is what a quality of a very, very good audience and a very good lineup of speakers is. May I please request our distinguished gentleman on stage to present Muhammad Talha, the Director and Head of Forensics Pakistan at KPMG, to receive a small token of our gratitude. Oh, come on, you can do so much better than this. Remember, it is me who will release you for lunch after a little while, so you should keep the quality up. May I please request Mr. Junaid Khan, who's the Manager Quality Assurance at the Etisalat Group in UAE, to accept a small token of our gratitude. And may I request both speakers to join Hamza and Sajid Saab on stage for a group photograph. And a note to the audience, your photograph, the applause doesn't come into the photograph, but it's always nice to do so. But wait. When they're all set up, then we need to applaud for them. Oh, come on, they need some more reasons to smile. Come on, the ladies aren't even applauding, I can see you. Great, thank you very much.